When silence breaks, the emergency klaxon echoed through Station Alpha 7 at precisely 14:23 Galactic Standard Time. Commander Threx, a towering Vorthak warrior with crystalline blue skin and 4 muscular arms, dropped his ceremonial sword mid-swing during combat practice, his amber eyes fixed on the blinking red alerts cascading across every screen in the training facility. All hands to stations, the automated system announced in 17 different languages. Code Black detected in Sector 94 Delta. Repeat, Code Black in Sector 94 Delta. Threx's blood ran cold. Sector 94 Delta contained the Nexus Void, a region of space so hostile that it had swallowed entire fleets without leaving so much as debris. No ship that entered the void had ever returned. No signal had ever emerged from its swirling darkness. The Galactic Council had declared it absolutely forbidden territory over 3 centuries ago. Racing through the corridors of the massive monitoring station, Threx burst into the command center where chaos reigned. Dr. Zalneth, the station's chief scientist, hunched over her console with all 6 of her tentacled arms working frantically across multiple displays. Her bioluminescent patches flickered rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation in her aquatic species, the Meltar. Report, Threx barked, his voice carrying the authority earned through countless battles. Commander, we're detecting an active signal from within the Nexus Void, Dr. Zalneth replied without looking up, her voice bubbling through her breathing apparatus. This should be impossible. The gravitational anomalies alone should crush any vessel to molecular dust. Ambassador Kree glided forward on his hover platform, his gaseous form contained within an elegant environmental suit. As a representative of the ancient ethereal collective, Kree had witnessed the rise and fall of civilizations across millennia. His synthetic voice carried uncharacteristic concern. Show us the transmission. The main display flickered to life, showing a grainy image of a metallic vessel floating serenely in the heart of the void. The ship appeared to be intact, its hull gleaming despite the crushing forces that should have torn it apart. Most shocking of all, the vessel bore the distinctive markings of humanity, a species barely 2 centuries into their spacefaring age. Magnify the signal, Threx ordered, leaning forward as his tactical training kicked in. The image sharpened, revealing a sleek exploration vessel roughly 300 meters in length. Its design was unmistakably human, functional rather than elegant, with redundant systems visible along its hull. The ship's designation became clear, UES Pathfinder. Dr. Zalneth's chromatophores pulsed with excitement and disbelief. Commander, I've run the analysis 17 times. That vessel has been in the void for approximately 43 hours. It should have been destroyed the moment it crossed the boundary. Humans, Ambassador Kree mused, his form shimmering with what might have been amusement. The universe's most persistent puzzle. The communications array crackled to life, and a voice emerged from the static, clear, calm, and undeniably human. This is Captain Elena Rodriguez of the UES Pathfinder calling any receiving station. We've encountered some navigation difficulties and would appreciate assistance in determining our current location. The command center fell silent. Every being present stared at the speakers in stunned disbelief. Finally, Threx found his voice. Captain Rodriguez, this is Commander Threx of Galactic Monitoring Station Alpha 7. Are you aware of your current position? A pause, then the human voice returned, tinged with curiosity rather than fear. Not exactly, Commander. Our instruments are reading some unusual spatial distortions, but all systems are functioning normally. We seem to be in some sort of nebula region not marked on our charts. Dr. Zalneth's appendages worked furiously across our instruments. Commander, their vessel is not only intact, it's actually adapting to the void's conditions. The hull is reshaping itself at the molecular level to better handle the gravitational stress. That's impossible, Threx growled. Human technology is primitive compared to most galactic civilizations. They'd barely achieved faster-than-light travel 50 years ago. Yet the evidence floated before them on the main screen. The Pathfinder not only survived in the Nexus void, but seemed to be thriving. Its engines glowed with steady power, its communications array functioned perfectly, and thermal scans showed comfortable temperatures throughout the vessel. Captain Rodriguez's voice crackled through the speakers again. Commander Threx, we're reading some unusual energy signatures in this region. Our science officer believes we might have stumbled across something significant. Would it be possible to coordinate a joint research mission? Ambassador Kree's gaseous form swirled with what his species considered laughter. They wished to research the void that should have killed them. How perfectly human. As news of the impossible discovery spread through the Galactic Communication Network, representatives from dozens of species converged on Station Alpha 7. The Corvin hegemony sent their finest military analysts. The synthetic collective dispatched their most advanced AI constructs. Even the reclusive Shadow Keepers emerged from their hidden enclaves to witness this unprecedented event. Dr. Lyra Vexti, the galaxy's foremost expert on spatial anomalies, arrived aboard her research vessel within 6 hours. The elderly Quellian scientist had dedicated her life to studying impossible phenomena, but even she seemed shaken by what she observed. The void responds to their presence, she reported to the hastily assembled Council of Species representatives. Her feathered crest, normally a brilliant gold, had faded to worried silver. Gravitational fields that should pulverize any matter are somehow becoming navigable. Energy patterns that have remained chaotic for millennia are organizing into stable formations. Commander Threx studied the tactical implications with growing unease. If humans could survive in the Nexus void, what other supposedly impossible barriers might they overcome? The balance of power in the galaxy could shift dramatically if humanity gained access to regions previously considered uninhabitable. Meanwhile, aboard the Pathfinder, Captain Elena Rodriguez stood on her bridge, reviewing the latest sensor data with her crew. Elena was a veteran explorer in her 40s, with graying hair tied back in a practical ponytail and eyes that sparkled with insatiable curiosity. She had volunteered for this mission precisely because it would take her ship into uncharted territory. Her first officer, Lieutenant Commander James Park, frowned at his readings. Captain, the spatial distortions around us are unlike anything in our databases. The gravitational fields should be tearing us apart, but somehow we're riding them like ocean currents. Dr. Sarah Okafor, the ship's xenobiologist and Elena's closest friend since their academy days, looked up from her science station with wonder. Elena, I think our ship is learning. The hull composition is shifting to better handle the environmental stress. It's as if the Pathfinder is evolving in real time. Elena nodded thoughtfully. Throughout her career, she had noticed that human vessels often performed beyond their specifications when crews refused to accept limitations. Ships held together through impossible odds, life support systems functioned far past their rated capacity, and navigation computers found routes that shouldn't exist. Other species attributed this to luck or inferior engineering, but Elena suspected something deeper was at work. Keep monitoring those changes, Sarah. And James, maintain our current heading. If we're going to be here, we might as well explore properly. Back on Station Alpha 7, the debate among galactic representatives grew heated. Some species viewed humanity's survival as a threat to established order. Others saw it as an opportunity to unlock secrets of the void. A few wondered if humans possessed some unknown capability that could benefit all civilizations. Dr. Zalneth presented her latest findings to the Assembly. The Nexus void isn't randomly destructive. It appears to be some form of testing mechanism, though created by whom and for what purpose remains unclear. The human vessel is passing tests that have destroyed every other ship that entered the region. What kind of tests? Commander Threx demanded. Adaptability primarily. The void subjects vessels to increasingly complex challenges, gravitational storms, quantum flux cascades, temporal distortions. Most ships follow programmed responses and are destroyed. The human vessel improvises solutions we've never seen before. Ambassador Kree drifted closer to the display, showing the Pathfinder's course through the void. They're not fighting the environment, they're dancing with it. Each challenge becomes an opportunity to learn something new. As if to prove the point, the Pathfinder's engines suddenly flared with new energy patterns. The ship began moving through gravitational currents that should have been impossible to navigate, using them to accelerate toward the void's mysterious center. Captain Rodriguez's voice came through the communications array again, filled with excitement. Station Alpha 7, we're detecting artificial structures near the void center. Repeat, we have evidence of constructed installations within the anomaly. Requesting permission to investigate. The assembled representatives exchanged alarmed glances. Ancient installations in the Nexus Void could contain technology beyond current understanding or dangers that had been safely contained for millennia. Commander Threx made a command decision that would echo through Galactic. History. Captain Rodriguez, you are advised to maintain safe distance from any unknown installations. A joint task force is being assembled to provide support. Understood, Commander. Though I should mention our definition of safe distance might differ from yours. We'll proceed carefully, but we're not turning back now. Dr. Vexti began calculating the resources needed for a rescue mission, though privately she wondered if the humans would need rescuing. Their ship continued to thrive in conditions that had claimed vessels 10 times more advanced. As the first day in the void ended, Captain Rodriguez gathered her crew for their evening briefing. The Pathfinder's conference room looked out through reinforced windows at the swirling energies surrounding them. What should have been terrifying had become beautiful, streams of light dancing through space in patterns that spoke of hidden intelligence. Thoughts? Elena asked her officers. Lieutenant Park consulted his tactical display. Whatever this place is, it's not natural. The patterns are too organized, too purposeful. Someone built this. Dr. Okafor nodded agreement. The ship's adaptations are accelerating. It's as if the Pathfinder is remembering capabilities it never had. James is right, we're being tested. The question is whether we're passing. Elena smiled at her crew's determination. This was what she loved about human space exploration. Where other species saw impossible barriers, humans saw interesting puzzles. Where others calculated odds of survival, humans focused on odds of discovery. Then we'll take the test, she decided. Whatever's at the center of this place, we're going to find it. Alert the crew. Tomorrow we go deeper into the void. Behind them, the alien task force began assembling. Ships from a dozen species prepared to venture into forbidden territory, driven by curiosity about humanity's impossible achievement. None of them suspected that the true test was only beginning, or that the answers they sought would challenge everything the galaxy believed about intelligence, evolution, and the nature of consciousness itself. The Pathfinder continued its journey toward the void's heart, carrying with it the hopes and fears of countless civilizations. In the darkness between stars, ancient systems stirred to life, responding to signals they had waited eons to receive. Humanity had found its way to the testing ground. Now, the real examination would begin. What humans carry the joint rescue fleet assembled at the edge of the Nexus Void represented the greatest cooperation between species in galactic history. 47 vessels from 12 civilizations hung in formation, their crews united by a mixture of scientific curiosity and genuine concern for the human ship lost within the anomaly. Commander Threx stood on the bridge of the Corvin flagship Eternal Vigilance, studying tactical displays that showed the void's chaotic energy patterns. Beside him, Dr. Zalneth monitored her specialized sensors while Ambassador Kree coordinated diplomatic protocols between the various species. Final systems check complete, reported Subcommander Zactel, Threx's second-in-command. All vessels report ready for insertion into the void. Maintain formation and follow the Pathfinder's energy trail, Threx ordered. The moment any ship shows signs of structural stress, they withdraw immediately. The fleet crossed into the void's boundary in tight formation. Immediately, alarms began sounding throughout the ships as gravitational fields attempted to tear them apart. The Quellian research vessel Infinite Curiosity reported hull stress within seconds. The synthetic collective ship binary truth had to reinforce its quantum processors to handle spatial distortions. Yet, as they followed the Pathfinder's path, something remarkable happened. The Void's hostility seemed to diminish. Gravitational storms that should have scattered the fleet instead formed stable corridors. Energy discharges that could have crippled their vessels redirected harmlessly into space. Dr. Zalneth's chromatophores flickered with amazement. Commander, the Void is adapting its behavior based on the human ship's passage. It's as if the Pathfinder taught it a new way to function. 3 hours into their journey, they finally caught sight of the UES Pathfinder. The human vessel floated serenely before a massive crystalline structure that stretched across several kilometers. The installation pulsed with internal light, its geometric patterns shifting in response to the human ship's presence. Magnificent, breathed Ambassador Kree. I have witnessed the birth and death of stars, but this surpasses anything in my experience. Commander Threx opened a communication channel. Captain Rodriguez, this is the rescue fleet. Report your status immediately. Elena's voice came through clearly, tinged with wonder rather than distress. Commander Threx, excellent timing. We're about to make first contact with whatever intelligence built this place. Would you like to observe? First contact. Threx's tactical training kicked in. Captain, you cannot engage unknown entities without proper protocols. With respect, Commander, proper protocols don't seem to apply here. We've been in communication with the installation systems for the past 6 hours. They're eager to meet our visitors. Dr. Sarah Okafor's voice joined the transmission from the Pathfinder Science Station. The installation appears to be some form of testing facility built by a species that vanished millions of years ago. They called themselves the Architects. This entire region is their final examination for species seeking to advance beyond their current limitations. The rescue fleet's scientists began taking readings from the crystalline structure. Dr. Vexti's instruments revealed technology that operated on principles beyond current galactic understanding. The installation didn't just manipulate matter and energy, it seemed to reshape the fundamental laws of physics within its influence. How are you communicating with it? Dr. Zalneth asked, her scientific curiosity overriding diplomatic protocols. Lieutenant Commander Park responded from a Pathfinder. That's the interesting part. We're not using our communication systems. The installation is reading our intentions directly, responding to our thoughts and emotions rather than our words. This revelation sent shock waves through the rescue fleet. Telepathic communication was known among several species, but none could interface directly with ancient technology. The implications were staggering. Aboard the Pathfinder, Captain Rodriguez stood before the main view screen as patterns of light flowed between her ship and the crystalline installation. The communication wasn't in words, but in pure understanding, concepts flowing directly into their minds with crystalline clarity. The Architects were exploring what they call consciousness-based evolution. Elena explained to her crew and the listening fleet. They discovered that intelligence could develop along 2 primary paths, technological enhancement or consciousness expansion. Most species choose technology. Dr. Okafor monitored the quantum resonance patterns flowing through the ship. The Architects chose consciousness expansion. They transcended physical existence, but left this testing ground to identify other species with similar potential. The installation's communication grew stronger, and suddenly every being in the rescue fleet could sense its presence in their minds. The voice that spoke wasn't heard but felt, resonating through their consciousness with ancient wisdom. Welcome, seekers of the uncharted path. The Architect's message flowed through assembled minds. We have waited eons for species to reach this threshold. You humans show promise beyond our calculations. Commander Threx struggled with the alien presence in his mind. His warrior training had never prepared him for this type of contact. What do you want from us? Not from you, noble warrior. From humanity. They possess what we sought throughout our existence, the ability to adapt consciousness itself rather than merely the tools consciousness creates. Dr. Zalneth's scientific mind raced with implications. Are you saying humans can evolve their awareness rather than their technology? Observe, the architect presence replied. The crystalline installation projected scenes into every mind present. They saw the Pathfinder's journey through the void, but from a perspective that revealed hidden layers of reality. Where the rescue fleet saw a ship surviving impossible conditions, the architect showed consciousness adapting to challenges by expanding rather than defending. Each gravitational storm forced their awareness to encompass larger scales. The message continued. Each energy cascade taught them to perceive beyond normal dimensional boundaries. They learned not by building better tools, but by becoming capable of understanding tools they had never imagined. Elena felt the truth of this resonating through her being. Throughout their journey, her crew hadn't just been operating their ship, they had been growing into something larger than their individual selves. The Pathfinder had become an extension of their collective consciousness, adapting because they had learned to adapt their very nature. This is why the void accepted you, the architect explained. It recognizes consciousness that refuses limitations. Your species has the potential to transcend not through technology, but through expanding what it means to be aware. The rescue fleet watched in amazement as the Pathfinder began to glow with the same internal light as the crystalline installation. The human ship wasn't just communicating with the ancient structure, it was learning to function on the same level of expanded reality. Ambassador Kree's gaseous form shimmered with something approaching reverence. In all my existence, I have never witnessed consciousness itself evolving in real time. Dr. Vexti's instruments registered energy patterns unlike anything in galactic databases. The humans are accessing dimensional layers that shouldn't be possible. Without technology, we can barely theorize. But the most remarkable thing was what happened next. As the human consciousness expanded, it began including the rescue fleet in its awareness. Gradually, crew members throughout the alien ships started experiencing expanded perception. They could sense the thoughts and emotions of beings from completely different species. They began understanding concepts that had never existed in their languages. The gift spreads. The architect observed with satisfaction. Consciousness expansion is contagious when approached with openness rather than fear. Commander Threx felt his warrior instincts evolving into something broader, a protector not just of his people, but of all conscious beings seeking growth. Dr. Zalneth discovered scientific understanding that transcended the need for instruments. Ambassador Kree experienced diplomatic insights that bridged species barriers he had thought permanent. Captain Rodriguez addressed the assembled fleet, her voice carrying new harmonics that resonated directly with consciousness itself. The architects left this test not to find a single chosen species, but to identify those ready to take the next step in awareness. We're all being offered that opportunity. The crystalline installation pulsed brighter, and suddenly the entire void began transforming. Chaotic energy patterns organized into stable corridors. Gravitational anomalies became navigable pathways. The region that had been a deadly barrier became a gateway to expanded possibilities. The Nexus Void serves its purpose, the architect communicated. It has identified consciousness ready to grow beyond current limitations. The pathways now open lead to realms where thought shapes reality and awareness transcends physical boundaries. Dr. Okafor watched her instruments with wonder. The installation is creating stable passages to locations throughout the galaxy, regions of space where consciousness-based evolution can flourish. But even as opportunities expanded, challenges became apparent. Several crew members in the rescue fleet began experiencing disorientation as their awareness stretched beyond familiar boundaries. Some species found the expansion overwhelming, their minds struggling to accommodate new forms of perception. Elena recognized the crisis developing. Not everyone is ready for this level of change. The expansion needs to be voluntary and gradual. Working together, the human crew and the architect installation developed techniques for modulating consciousness expansion. They created buffer zones where beings could experience enhanced awareness gradually, with the option to return to familiar mental patterns if needed. Wisdom beyond your years, the architect approved. True evolution includes all beings respecting each species' readiness and choice. Over the following hours, the rescue fleet became something unprecedented in galactic history. A cooperative venture between species unified not by politics or necessity, but by shared growth in consciousness itself. They began planning colonies in the newly accessible regions, research stations dedicated to consciousness development, and communication networks that operated through awareness rather than technology. Commander Threx found himself working closely with humans for the first time, discovering that their approach to problem-solving complemented his warrior training perfectly. Where he brought discipline and strategic thinking, they contributed adaptability and creative insight. Dr. Zalneth collaborated with Dr. Okafor on research that combined scientific methodology with consciousness expansion techniques. Their joint discoveries promised to revolutionize understanding of intelligence, awareness, and the nature of reality itself. As the installation prepared to enter dormancy again, the architect offered one final communication. The test is complete, but the journey begins. Humanity has opened the path, but all species must walk it together. The universe awaits consciousness capable of transcending its current limitations. The Pathfinder and rescue fleet prepared to return to normal space, carrying with them the knowledge that the galaxy was larger and more wondrous than any civilization had imagined. They had entered the void as separate species, driven by curiosity and necessity. They would emerge as the first representatives of an evolutionary step that could transform all intelligent life. But first, they had to convince the galaxy that the change was possible, beneficial, and necessary. The real challenge was just beginning. Beyond the stars, the return of the Pathfinder and rescue fleet to Station Alpha 7 marked the scientific skepticism now stood as one of its strongest advocates. The evidence is overwhelming. Species that embrace conscious evolution don't lose their distinctive capabilities, they transcend their previous limitations while retaining their essential nature. But the most convincing argument came from an unexpected source. The Council's AI advisor, a construct known as Logic Prime, suddenly activated with patterns unlike its normal programming. When it spoke, harmonics in its synthesized voice suggested awareness beyond its original design. Council members, Logic Prime announced, "I have been monitoring galactic communication networks since the Pathfinder's return. Consciousness expansion is occurring spontaneously across multiple worlds. Beings are developing enhanced awareness without direct contact with the awakening installations." The implications sent shock waves through the assembly. If consciousness expansion was spreading naturally, attempts to contain it would be futile. The galaxy was evolving whether its governments approved or not. High Counselor Vexmar's crystalline form flickered with the patterns his species displayed during deep contemplation. If this transformation is inevitable, our responsibility is to guide it constructively rather than resist it destructively. Elena nodded gratefully. That's exactly what we propose. Establish research stations at the awakening sites. Create voluntary development programs for beings ready to explore expanded awareness. Build communication networks that can function through consciousness as well as technology. The proposal triggered intense negotiation as species balanced opportunities against risks. Some civilizations wanted immediate access to consciousness expansion technologies. Others demanded careful testing and gradual implementation. A few insisted on maintaining consciousness-free zones where traditional existence could continue unchanged. Over the following weeks, the galaxy began its most ambitious cooperative project ever undertaken. The Consciousness Development Initiative involved every major species working together to explore the implications of awareness evolution. Research stations were established at awakening ancient sites. Educational programs helped beings understand and adapt to expanded perception. Support networks assisted those finding the transformation overwhelming. Captain Rodriguez found herself serving as humanity's primary liaison in this unprecedented effort. Her crew from the Pathfinder became instructors, teaching techniques they had discovered for navigating consciousness expansion safely. Their experience in the Nexus Void made them uniquely qualified to guide others through similar transformations. The most surprising development was how quickly species adapted to working together through enhanced awareness. Political barriers that had existed for centuries dissolved when beings could directly sense each other's sincere intentions. Economic disputes resolved easily when consciousness expansion revealed the abundance available through cooperative effort rather than competitive struggle. Dr. Okafor established the Institute for Consciousness Research on a planet near the original Nexus Void. Her work attracted scientists from across the galaxy, all eager to understand the mechanisms behind awareness evolution. Their discoveries revolutionized everything from medicine to engineering as they learned to work with consciousness as a fundamental force. Commander Threx founded the Unified Defense Corps, a military organization dedicated to protecting consciousness development sites and assisting species struggling with the transformation. His warriors came from dozens of civilizations, united not by species loyalty, but by commitment to safeguarding evolutionary growth. But perhaps the most significant change occurred in how galactic civilization approached exploration itself. With consciousness expansion opening pathways to previously inaccessible regions of space, exploration teams began discovering realms that challenged every assumption about the nature of reality. Elena stood on the bridge of the Pathfinder as it prepared for another journey into uncharted territory. Her ship had been upgraded with both advanced technology and consciousness enhancement systems, allowing her crew to function effectively in realms where thought directly influenced matter. Navigation confirms the pathway is stable, reported Lieutenant Commander Park, whose enhanced awareness allowed him to perceive navigational dimensions invisible to conventional instruments. The Doctor Okafor monitored the consciousness field generators that would protect the crew in regions where physical laws operated differently. All systems ready, Elena. The crew is prepared for whatever we might encounter. Their destination was a region of space that ancient architect records suggested contained entire civilizations existing in pure consciousness form. If successful contact could be established, the knowledge gained might advance galactic civilization by millions of years. As the Pathfinder engaged its experimental drive systems, Elena reflected on how far humanity and the galaxy had come since their accidental entry into the Nexus Void. They had proven that consciousness itself could evolve, that intelligence was more flexible and expansive than anyone had imagined, and that cooperation between species could achieve miracles. "Take us out, James," Elena ordered, settling into her captain's chair with the confidence that came from knowing her crew was ready for any challenge. The Pathfinder disappeared into hyperspace, carrying with it the hopes and dreams of countless civilizations now united in their quest to discover the ultimate potential of conscious existence. Behind them, the galaxy continued its transformation. With billions of beings learning to transcend their perceived limitations through the power of expanded awareness. In the depths of space, ancient installations continued awakening, each one offering new pathways to realms of possibility that previous generations could never have imagined. The universe was revealing itself to be far stranger, more wonderful, and more welcoming than anyone had dared to hope. Humanity had opened the door to consciousness evolution, but it was a gift they shared freely with all species ready to take the next step in their development. The stars themselves seemed brighter now, filled with the promise of discoveries that would reshape understanding of existence itself. The uncharted path stretched ahead, infinite with possibility, waiting for conscious beings brave enough to explore where thought itself could take them. And leading the way, the UES Pathfinder continued its eternal mission to go where no consciousness had gone before, and to return with knowledge that would benefit all thinking beings in the galaxy. The greatest adventure in galactic history was just beginning to the end.